Hey everybody, got some interesting stuff to show, some updates on items. We got the CBOT out of the iGRID system for CTrader. That's been out for several weeks. We've had the EAs out for MT4, MT5. We're actually going to put out an updated version of the MT5 EA already Sunday or Monday. We found something in a recent MT5 change that we decided to adjust for. It was kind of a tricky find, but we found it. And I'm also already working on version 2 of the EA, so we'll have one that's more simplistic in nature, and then we're going to have a second version with, I guess you could say, more in-depth or more sophisticated in-trade management, and that goes to the trail stop mechanism that I've been talking to the group about. So anyhow, had a fair amount of questions about the trading activity yesterday. I personally thought yesterday was a fairly easy day, especially when you pay attention to levels. Let's take a look at yesterday's action out of the 7:30 Chicago time news announcement, and then what played out after that. So, apologize if you hear any background music. I'm remote. I've been doing a lot of traveling lately. Got some big stuff ramping up. But anyhow, on the institutional side trading, but anyhow, this was 7:30 news, the typical back and forth before it finally picks a direction. Initial direction during that 1 minute period of time that played out from here all the way to right about here. That's 1 minute of time. So, that's not really what I consider super tradable. So, but we did have a down move, and then we had lift, and that was the more directional part of the move. Now, I will say we did do a level sweep on this part of the move that was pretty significant over some prior pivots. Taking a short trade right here out of a level sweep on a news release. Now you're getting about 1 to 2 minutes past the news release. You're still in that dicey period, but was that actionable? Sure, you had a level sweep. Got a little bit of a one push down, a secondary push, and then we flipped, so you could have gotten out. And, anytime we get a flip and you're short on the shift portion of the indicator, I say just get out. So you want to really made anything, want to really lost anything. Now, do you want to get long, thinking you get range extension if you're into being a buyer? Sure. That didn't really work. He came up, did a levels test, a slight sweep, churned a bit, and if I would have been long and I start seeing this churning, and I'm getting near and near the U.S. cash session open, I'm just like, hey, just go flat, not really up, not really down. We'll wait and see what happens out of the open. Okay, we did finally have a little bit more of a pronounced level sweep over that level. We rotated lower. Not sure anybody wants to get short right out of the U.S. session open, because many times they come in and at 8:30 Chicago time in 1 second, investment banks are pouring Fed discount window money into the markets like a fire hose, buying 0 DTE options, buying baskets of futures. This is all automated, and buying weird baskets of stocks that are like really the type of stocks you would never buy unless you're just buying them knowing that they're hardly going to move, but they're going to move a lot of other stuff, and then you're going to let go of them into the movement and be distributing out of those stocks because you use it as a mechanism, kind of like booster engines. You light off all these futures buy program activity. You light off all this 0 DTE and other options buying activity, and then you buy this big baskets of stocks just to get everything moving. And then after it lifts and starts accelerating, you let go of those baskets of stocks, whittling out, whittling out, whittling out. They do it all automated like boosters on a rocket, and that kind of served its purpose. Then they're not holding any stocks long. They're riding the 0 DTE and futures moves, and then exiting those at whatever levels they feel is key. So here's the 8:30 open. We had an area here we were testing a bit. It was holding pre-market. It got tested there, a little bit of a tick below that, and it got tested. The market was stair-stepping higher. So for those that want to be a buyer, pretty much not too far after the open, I get it, because you got a little bit of meat on the bone to at least get a run maybe to the just pre-market opening high, pivot high, and it just went right up and stalled. They brought it back down almost as like they wanted to load up on a little more inventory. Then they lifted, and we finally got the flip right about here. So getting along here and getting along here made a little bit of sense to me. If you're of thought, hey, recent Fridays, they've shot this thing to the move. I want to get long as early as possible. So anyhow, that was the first action. I didn't play much in here. I wanted to see this level. I was pretty convinced we're going to come up and challenge this level at some point. Sure enough, we did. So I'm waiting. And on my more, what I call more dialed in, this is my bigger picture look, iGRID settings, my more dialed in settings. I had a flip in here. I put in some liquidity, had another flip in here. And I'm talking light amounts of liquidity, M and Qs. And then on this one, I put more. And then when we got the official flip, now we're getting the structural long. We've now done a significant level sweep over prior highs. Now I'm ready to get in and take a whack at it. I'm going to whack this thing with some liquidity. And I did. And then I added in some of these. I added in 2 rotations. That one came up. So when we went long here, I actually stayed short because I'd already made money in some of these moves. I was already in positive P&L. The small amount I was holding, I figure if they run it back up here and blow through, and we don't do a level test and roll back over, that I can hit, then I'll just let go. But I didn't have to. It rotated, came back, gave me another short setup. And I had lower pivot high structure forming. So we had significant level sweep on a Friday out of econ news that to me looked bad. 3.9% unemployment rate. Not that the news even means anything anymore. We could have the worst economic news and institutions will come in and pump the Nasdaq 200 points on playing with all fit discount window money. But it's a Friday. We've had a significant run back to recent highs and an extension beyond. This felt like to me that there's going to be some of the bigger players using this as an area to distribute and sell out of stocks that were in the money. And boy, did that happen. Go look at some of those semiconductor stocks. Go look at NVIDIA. Not at all surprised. We got many across the globe. They use Friday's extension as a ring the till moment. So anyhow, I was short and added some on the way down, but this little inability for this pivot to rotate, and when the Heikinashi rolled over, even though we're in a long state, put me on notice. We did come through. We did get the secondary. So this is our first short signal after the level sweep. That was our first short signal right here. That little spike. This area price. Here's the other little spike. There's our area price. Those were 2 shorts that I thought made a heck of a lot of sense. Being a buyer after the level sweep was not something I was interested in. That was, to me, of lower probability. Earlier, being a buyer, looking to at least run up to the just recent pre-market highs, that makes some sense to me. And for the most part, we held this area. We didn't have any big leg lower. So this buy in here, and we had higher pivot lows leading into the buy, can't beat that pattern. That was pretty good looking. And even the one right here looked good. Higher pivot lows and lift. Both of these I thought were very good looking buy setups out of the U.S. cash session open. But I just sat on my hands and then worked the short side, and when we got the secondary lower pivot high and secondary short signal, it's not surprised to see us trade back lower the range. And then basically I was done. I didn't really work anything the rest of the day. There was a lot of back and forth here. I saw institutions keep coming in, trying to get traction on their trades, but they kept diminishing in that, and then they just let go. And they were basically non-participants the rest of the day. I think this was just a big short covering bounce. Later part of the day, getting into 1 o'clock Chicago time, this is just like, holy shit, I got short and I actually made some money today, and it's a Friday. Well, I'm going to cash that out. So I think that was a lot of localized new inventory to the short side. ringing the till that were just in here playing for the day. That's what that move felt like. It just kind of came on strong and then was fed into. So it was a little different pattern of activity. And then right away, new responsive selling got right back into it. And this did kind of come up and trade to the prior area where we had a significant acceleration to the downside out of this crud. So we came right back up to the about middle cost basis of that last zone before the break. We came right up to the middle of that cost basis. We put in an M pattern lower pivot high. Very nice trade setup. It's just, I don't want to be trading at 2 in the afternoon on a Friday. That's just, I wasn't paying any attention to these markets past about, I think at about 11:30, I was charts off and off working on system stuff. Okay, now I want to show you something. I'm going to show you another way of how I'm going to update the iGRID indicator and make another version for the group. I wasn't going to do this. I thought, no, I don't want to confuse you guys, but I decided I'm going to do it. And Friday's the perfect day why it would not be bad to take a look at another way of using the iGRID. And the nice thing, you can set it up yourself right now using 2 iGRID indicators. So let's go take a look. Okay, so for those of you in the group, I'm on a 55 Renko, 19 offset, 11. You can use whatever you want. I wanted a little bit higher of a time frame because I'm working on something called the connected trade that's fully automated for the NTA. Everybody that's in the NTA group is going to get the automation. So my few beta testers, those of you guys giving me great feedback, I'm going to be, which I really didn't say at the onset, but I've kind of told people I'm going to make sure I give you the version of the automated system I'm building for NT8 that's absolutely in build. But look at what I've done here. I have 2 iGRIDs. So I have one iGRID where the Heikin Ashi is set lagged. It's powering the shift portion of the indicator. And then I have another iGRID added where I only have the Heikin Ashi turned on. So see what I'm doing? Does that make sense? So let's go into this. And let's turn this back on. This is the one where I can see the shift portion. So let me color a bullish lime, bearish red, so you can just see what's going on. See how I have the Heikin Ashi much more smooth? I can smooth it even a little bit more, but this is fine. It's enough smoothing. So this Heikin Ashi is part of the iGRID indicator number 1 that's powering the shift portion of my indicator. So I've got it at a 55 setting, 19, and a sensitivity of 2. So that's the key for that one. But I've turned this to transparent, so I don't see it. So I'm affecting the shape of the shift portion, because remember, we have a lot of adjustability. I'm using that one to determine the sensitivity, or I should say more properly, the responsiveness of that indicator to price. So I can just see the bigger picture structural. Then I've gone in with another iGRID. I don't even care what these settings are because I set the bullish and bearish color to transparent. But I've set the Heikin Ashi so I can see it. So I have another iGRID giving me the Heikin Ashi micro up and down movements of price. Well, the other Heikin Ashi that's tied to the iGRID where we see the shift is adding to where it's plotting. So I could actually just build a version of the iGRID where I have 2 Heikin Ashis in it. We'll have a Heikin Ashi 1 that affects the shift and a Heikin Ashi 2. Or I might incorporate another indicator, maybe the ZA trend, where I have the Heikin Ashi 1 powering this, and then we have the ZA trend as your more micro movement action part of the indicators. There's a lot of possibilities here. Like I told you, we're just getting warmed up with the iGRID. So now in this one, I could really make this one sensitive. I could go down and make it like an 8. So I can really see the up and down flow. So when I'm in uptrends, I can be buying pullbacks and uptrends or selling rollovers in downtrends. So anyhow, I wanted to show you this. I'll put out more videos on this later today, but all kinds of good stuff on